Hello there, welcome to Jim's Cantina. Just the same as all my other videos, except this time, me and my guest have a drink. That's the only difference. There we go, both in orange cups as well. I'm Jim, you know me. Joined with me today is one of my closest friends, which is crazy because we've never met in person. That's the beauty. Soon, very soon. But that's the beauty of the internet. You make friends with people all over the world who become very, very close and very, very dear to you. This is Nat. Nat's here. Say hello, Nat.
Hi, it's me.
So Nat, on the Instagrams and on the YouTubes, the real Jedi Princess. You might have seen me on one of her podcasts if you've been to her channel before, probably quite recently. And Nat's come on today because A, I always love chatting to her, and B, she's the only person I know that can meet my level of Ahsoka love. As you can see, she's wearing some very, very fetching ears, which I also have for myself. Because, you know, you got to have your own Ahsoka ears. Do you know what I love about these ears, right? Is the fact that you can turn them around and they're still Ahsoka. And the fact that they say, I am one with the Force and the Force is with me.
I've never turned these around.
How have you never turned them around? They're the Fulcrum symbol.
Because for the longest time, I've just had them mounted. I ordered them when I was, when I lived here in Atlanta. And I just put them on the wall just so they can be displayed. I've never thought to turn these around.
So cool, right? There you go. So good. So good. I'm also sitting, we have an extra special guest, and that's the Tano Bear. She's here just to look after us, make sure that we're all right, and that no Sith do us any damage. So she's sitting there. Ahsoka Tano. That's what we're going to talk about in this episode. So if you don't like Ahsoka Tano, first off, sort yourself out. You're a wrong'un, and I don't appreciate it. Secondly, if you do like Ahsoka Tano, welcome. You're welcome here. With
welcome. You're beyond.
Our arms open wide. Ahsoka's an interesting character because obviously up until relatively recently, she didn't exist in any kind of live action and was only an animated character. So I think sometimes people don't get why we like Ahsoka. What was your first introduction to Ahsoka, and why did she resonate with you? That sounded very interviewish question, didn't it? I didn't mean to.
It
just came out.
You know what? I'm here for it.
Right? Trying to be all professional
in these days. Come on. But no, my first introduction to Ahsoka was in 2012 when I went to Star Wars Celebration for the first time. That's when Disney recently had acquired Star Wars, and the show The Clone Wars was already airing at this point. I had not seen the show, but at Star Wars Celebration, I saw this tunic that I was like, this is really, really cool. I want to buy it. I like the colors a lot. Lo and behold, it was shortly after Ashley Eckstein, the voice of Ahsoka, opened her line, her universe. And I was like one of the first things she had. So I bought it and I wore it for the rest of the day at Star Wars Celebration. And then it wasn't until 2014. So 2 years later, I had just finished my Disney college program. I worked at Disney for many, many years, but I first started doing the Disney college program in 2013 and 2014. And I knew that I had just finished my program. I just moved home. I knew I was going to be going to Star Wars weekends. So for those that don't know on the channel, Star Wars weekends used to be this big celebration at Walt Disney World, at Hollywood Studios specifically, for 5 weekends, going from May to June. And when I tell you it was a celebration of Star Wars. So you had prequel characters, Clone Wars characters, Rebel characters. You had every single character from Star Wars under the sun there. Gamorrean guards, Tusken Raiders, Sabine, like Ezra. You had everybody there. And their voice actors or their actors were there as well. So it was just like a celebration, and knowing that I was going to be attending my first ever Star Wars weekends, I was like, you know what? Let me binge watch Clone Wars. And then I finally met Ahsoka, and I fell in love with her so much that I ended up buying a costume and going to Celebration dressed as Ahsoka for 2 days. And I met Ahsoka all weekend, and she recognized me every single time. Like, she goes, "It's Natalia." She knew my name. She remembered my face. And I'm sorry, but like, as a Star Wars fan, but as like a performer, because I had done my college program as a Disney performer, I felt so seen. And then, sorry to break the magic, but the girl who ended up being Ahsoka ended up becoming one of my really good friends while I was working at Disney. Her name is Kylie. I will always remember her, but Kylie definitely helped me embrace my love for Ahsoka. And then from there, it just obsession. Like, I was 19. I just turned 20. Like, Ahsoka was everything to me. And she was just such a badass character that I had not seen before in Star Wars, really.
I think that's something that the Clone Wars did very, very well, is it shone a light on characters that obviously no one had ever really seen before. You get hints of other Jedi in the films, but the Clone Wars was able to expand on so many other people. But for me, like, obviously I saw Ahsoka first in the Clone Wars, and unlike everybody else, I didn't hate her straight away. I was just like, this is a new character. The first thing I was like, wait, what? What do you mean Anakin's got a Padawan?
It didn't make sense.
No, he doesn't. We've never heard of her since. This is rubbish. I was like, but okay, suspension of disbelief. Let's see it. And of course, the first few seasons, first few episodes, bit rocky. But I was just like, this is an interesting idea. The fact that Anakin Skywalker, obviously who we know to become Darth Vader and the biggest bad in the entire universe, has a Padawan, and
a female one at that.
And a female one, and has influence on somebody else in the Star Wars universe that we've never seen before. And why? How? What the hell? And so I was just like, I was intrigued by the character, and I was just like, I didn't hate the fact that she was a kid. I was like, well, she's a Padawan. That makes sense. I didn't hate the fact that she was like kind of bratty. I was like, well, what goes around comes around, Anakin. So suck it up. And I was just like, I'm just intrigued as to where this goes. And obviously, Torgrutas wasn't really like a species we'd really seen much of before.
We only saw it in Shakti.
And
that's it. And literally by Shakti, like, we literally just saw Shakti a glimpse in the prequels.
Yeah. And so it was like a whole new species to learn about. And I'm a big fan of doing that. I'm a big fan of like, what's this species? What more can I learn about them? And, and things like that, and how they're different from other species and stuff. Because I think first thing you do is you think she's a Twi'lek.
Because everyone sees the Leku and they're like, oh, Twi'lek.
Yeah, until you realize she's not a Twi'lek. They're not Leku. They're called Mob Trolls. And there's 3 of them. It's different. Back off. So for me, I was just like, this is a really interesting way to go. And I think her story arc in Clone Wars is the first part of Clone Wars, obviously, before we got to the resurrection recently, was great. And it was something very different, seeing a Jedi that walked away from the Order because of valid reasons as well.
I mean, it's the first time, aside from obviously like Anakin turning to the dark side and the whole Order basically going up in flames, literally. It was the first time we ever saw somebody actively walk away from the Order like it was a choice.
Yes.
Because obviously when the Republic fell, and everyone scattered, and or like all the Jedi were killed in Order 66. That was, you know, at the hands of the dark side. But in this case, it's the first time we ever saw a Jedi walk away and it not be like just like she had every single right to walk away.
Yes.
And I hate to say that because I was torn internally when she left, because I was just like, well, what's she gonna do now? What's the Jedi? What's the Clone Wars series gonna look like with her walking away?
Yeah.
Like, she is such a strong character in this show. Like, what's it gonna be like? And she did what every single badass character I know in my life did. She lived her life, continued helping the people the way. She never changed.
No.
She got older, wiser, and stronger, but she never changed her morals. And I think that's very important. And it was also admirable about that is she also kind of paved the way for, you know, we Jim and I mentioned this on my podcast on Snips Comlink, but he mentioned that, you know, she kind of opened the doors for the gray Jedi, or what is in between the dark and the light side. And that's something that, you know, we've never seen before, because for some reason this freaking Star Wars universe always has to be you have to be on the dark side, you have to be a dark side follower, you have to be a light side follower. I'm like, no, I don't. And you know why? Because Ahsoka is not. Yeah. Ahsoka's not light side. She clean says, I'm not a Jedi. She stays in the middle. She never falls to the dark side. I feel like, I mean, if you have Force sensitive abilities, I feel like the dark side will always tempt you in ways. No matter how long you try to fight it, it will tempt you. But she never fully went dark, but she always fought for what was right, and just made her an amazing character. And I love how Ahsoka lives. I remember seeing that hashtag for the first time when Ashley posted it during Rebel. She goes, Ahsoka lives. And I'm like, just so happy she didn't die. And she's still here with us. And now if you really think about it, she never technically died.
No. No.
I mean, at some point,
very confusing.
At some point, she's going to have to. But currently, she's alive and thriving.
Yeah, she's doing her best work. I think for me, like, Clone Wars was very, very much of a 3-person show. It was always Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka. It was their show. Like, we had all the other characters, we had all the other things, but ultimately it always came back to those 3. And I think that's a very big thing to do. When you've got this entire universe based around Anakin and essentially Obi-Wan, to then not only put somebody else in there, but put in a brand new character that no one's seen before, who's female. It's a very brave thing to do. And I think had she not been written as well as she was, had she not been acted as well as she was, that character could have gone that way very, very quickly. And I think obviously the beauty of Star Wars is we are blessed with very strong female characters. We always have been. It's the one thing that Star Wars has always had, strong female characters. It's why when people complain about Rey, it's ridiculous, because you're like, well, there's always a strong female. The female characters are on the same level as the male characters, but they're all strong together. They all work together. Shut your stupidity. Move on. But I think that's what's important with Ahsoka is she is this character that was brought in from nowhere and has become something more than I think I would have ever imagined.
No, I completely agree. I mean, when she was introduced in the Clone Wars, in the movie, she was annoying as hell.
Yep.
Granted, that's why she got the nickname Snips. because she was always snippy with Anakin. And I think what's cool about Ahsoka when she was introduced is that people forget to, yes, when you're growing up to be a Jedi, you're training and stuff like that, people forget, you know, kids are going to be kids. Teenagers are going to be teenagers.
Yep.
And Ahsoka was a perfect example of a teenager being a teenager. Like she still had so much to learn, but she was still a kid. She was still curious. She was still adventurous. She was like, had such a headstrong, like mentality to her. Like she was always like, she questioned things. And like, you don't really see that with Padawans in Star Wars, mainly because the only Padawan we ever really saw as a kid that we really didn't see him train was Anakin. Because Anakin, we saw him being 10 years old, just joined the Jedi Order, and he had his little Padawan thing, his little Padawan braid. That's it. And then we get to 10 years later when he's 20 years old. And at this point, if you really want to consider him, and I guess he's still an apprentice, but he's technically a Jedi Knight.
Yeah.
So we don't even see the Padawan training like we don't see Anakin in his training processes at all. So seeing Ahsoka and seeing what it's like to have a teenager growing up in the Jedi Temple, she was like the perfect example of like what I'd expect a true Padawan to be.
Well, yeah, you've got a teenager. They've got crazy powers. They could do anything. And, you know, you can see that she's constantly trying to impress her master, who is the great Anakin Skywalker. You're like, that's a lot to live up to. So you can see that in her. And that's what I love about her. And you can see one of my favorite things is how he rubs off on her, but she also rubs off on him, you know, and how she does soften him. And she's like one of the only people that really knows him. Obviously, Padme does as well.
Yeah.
But I'd argue that Ahsoka's with him a lot more than Padme is. Like, they're together all the time. Like, any mission, anything else, they're always together. So it's just like they truly become, you know, a trio, and a very important trio. Now, I would say for me, as much as I loved Ahsoka in the first part of the Clone Wars, I resonated with her more when we got to Rebels. Rebels is my jam. You know this. For those of you that
live under a rock, live under a rock.
Yeah, Rebels is my favorite show. Like, of all shows, of all shows.
You couldn't tell there's Fulcrum in your name.
Yeah, exactly. Fulcrum in my name. I think it's the best. For me, it is. And Ahsoka's story in that, the fact that we meet her X amount of years down the line after she's left the Jedi. We haven't seen what happened with Siege of Mandalore yet. We haven't seen that part yet because Rebels came out before that did, which can be a bit confusing. But seeing someone that's walked away from the Jedi Order, but as you said, not turned to the dark side, as probably tempting as it is, and is still fighting the good fight, still doing everything she can to help. And if anything, has had to change her allegiance, because her allegiance was always to the Republic, like Kenobi, to democracy. And so all of a sudden she's fighting against the clones, and she's fighting against these people that were her family for all this time. And you see the older Ahsoka and how much she's grown and how different she is. And I love that in a character. It's why I love Old Man Luke. It's why I really enjoyed the Kenobi show, because you get to see a character that's been through some stuff and who they are now and where that's taken them. So for me, Ahsoka Rebels is my Ahsoka, more so than Clone Wars. But I know that's different for you, obviously, but that's the beauty of that character, though. Like, you and I are different. I don't know if you know this, but we are. You're a woman. Again, shock. I'm not. No, I'm not. And you know, we come from two completely different places in the world and in life and age wise and how we've gotten to Star Wars, you know, but still there's this character that has resonated with us, and very much two different versions of the exact same character has spoken to us on a level to bring us together to this point where we're like, isn't this character amazing? And I love that. Like, it's one of my favorite things about Star Wars is it can bring people together that you probably like. Without Star Wars, you and I never meet.
No. Yeah. Without Star Wars, I don't know if I would have met anybody like that I'm currently closely friends with. Like, it's crazy how this community, with it being as big as it is, because this is a very big community, how sometimes we cross paths and then realize, like, because like you said, I haven't really met anybody in my life that has ever loved Ahsoka as much as I did. I mean, I still have to explain who Ahsoka is so many times to people. They're like, who is that? Like, for somebody that's never watched Star Wars, the only character they probably know of, Luke Skywalker, they know that name. They know Princess Leia because of Carrie Fisher. They know Han Solo because of Harrison Ford. And they know Darth Vader. Like, those are the only characters everybody knows. Like, they don't know Clone Wars characters unless they watch the show. They don't know Rebels characters unless they watch Rebels. So I always have to be the one to explain to people, like, who Ahsoka is. Like, she's on my phone case. And they're like, oh, who is that? Who is that person? I'm like, this is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars. And she's Anakin Skywalker's Padawan. They're like, who? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not with my people right now.
That's when you know that they're not your people. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. When people are like, oh, is that a lightsaber on your arm? I'm like, yeah, I've got a lightsaber here, and I've got Ahsoka Tano here. And they're like, who? I'm like, I'm gonna leave because I don't associate with you people. You're beneath me. It is crazy. Like, I have the same thing with Kanan, because that's even deeper, because Kanan doesn't exist outside of Rebels at all. Maybe a little bit now in Bad Batch with his original Jedi name of Caleb Doom, but even that's quite, I would argue, quite deep cut. So that's a whole Kanan thing. I think obviously Mandalorian has done a lot to bring Ahsoka into more of a public light. Played by obviously Rosario Dawson, who I think is a great choice as Ahsoka. I think she does a really, really good job as an even older Ahsoka. Like, how old is she at this point?
Because technically Ahsoka, when we see her for the first time, has to be nothing more than like 14, 15. 14 years old. And then from the beginning of the Clone Wars, because in reality, the Clone Wars was only how many years? Like 2?
It's 2 or 3, somewhere around there.
Years. So she ends up
crazy long.
So she leaves the Order pretty much being around, like, because she leaves the Order, surprisingly enough, like, not so long before the Republic falls.
Yeah.
So I think she has to be like 16 years old by the time season 7 happens. So she's 16 years old at the Siege of Mandalore. And then the next time we see her in Rebels was what, like, how many years after the fall of the Republic?
Isn't it like 5 years? Maybe longer?
No, it has to be longer because Kanan was a kid when. Remember?
That's right. Oh, Jesus. So it's got to be at least 10, if not 15.
So she probably comes to Rebels at the age of, like, maybe, what, 26? Closer to, like, maybe her late 20s.
We should know this.
We should know this, but it's also really never clarified.
No, people in Star Wars don't have ages unless your name's Yoda.
Yeah, right, and it's said out loud in a movie.
And even then, it's vague. So she was 17 when Clone Wars ended.
17. So
she's 32 in Rebels.
32.
Yeah, and so Rebels kind of finishes very close to the beginning of A New Hope. It's not far off.
So how many? So would you give it another 10? So she's like, what, in her 40s?
Yeah, I would say probably early 40s.
She's in her early 40s by the time we see
Mando?
her in Mandalorian. And then when we see her in Mando and Book of Boba and all that, that's all roughly around the same time. So she's in her 40s when we see her.
Yeah. And so, it's interesting that we get to see this character in those different stages of their lives, but never losing who she is.
No, she always remains the same. I think, and you know what's crazy is if like everyone, like I'm gonna give an explanation with my other favorite character in Star Wars, which is Kylo Ren. Everyone's like, oh well, you know, he didn't have to go to the dark side, yada yada. Like he didn't have to do this, and I'm like, no, but he did because he was led that way. The difference between him and Ahsoka is Ahsoka had every single, you know, as a woman, she could have been a Sith Lord. She could have been to the dark side so easily. And she had every single right to. She had everything taken away from her. She had her family taken away from her. She had her best friend, the person she loved the most, not romantically, but like as in like a, you know, a family way, the person she would put down her life for, betray the entire galaxy and become Darth Vader. So now has to live with the guilt that that she couldn't fix him, that she couldn't help him, that she couldn't be there for him. And then, you know, has to deal with the fact that the entire galaxy is in shambles, going from this republic to this empire that's just so erratic in the way they do their things. They're killing people. They are occupying these places that, you know, were already poor to begin with, but now make them extra poor. It's just, she had every single right to be a villain.
Yeah.
Every single right. She's had so many things bad happen to her. She never did.
No.
She doesn't claim to be part of the Jedi Order anymore, but she never fell to the dark side, even though she had so many chances to. And if she did, it would have been justified, like in my opinion. But she never did.
Oh, for sure.
And with Kylo, he just, you know, went through a lot of shit growing up, was tempted to the dark side, took the opportunity, and he did it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like,
you know, but that's key for all Jedi, isn't it? There is a point where you pick your side, and you're right. Ahsoka had every opportunity to go to the dark side, and how the Jedi Order treated her, I think it would have been justified, and they would have had a problem had she gone to the dark side. I think that would have been a massive problem. I think she would have come back and absolutely ruined them all.
We do get a little bit of a version of a dark side of her.
We do.
In that arc, where she gets bit by the evil brother.
Yeah. I love that arc. I really do. Like, there's so many elements of that feed on through to the future of Star Wars that is just, you know, the whole
It just makes so much sense to me. That arc made so much sense. Like, it wasn't like a strange arc that I'm like, I don't get this. It makes sense. There is a sister for light and a brother for dark and a father that like is in between. And, you know, obviously the father needs to pass on. So the chosen one is supposed to take their place.
Yeah.
Which to me also explains the prophecy.
Yes.
Like keeping the balance. And obviously that kind of went to shit when Anakin's like, no, I don't want to do that. Like,
yeah.
Like
that would have been a very different story. Yeah, see, and that's what I love about that arc, is seeing all the different elements that could have come from it, but what actually did come from it. And obviously we revisit it many years later when in Rebels with Ezra and finding all the symbols and stuff, and then bringing in the whole element of time travel, which some people enjoy, some people do not. Personally, I like it. What it did for Ahsoka was show you who she could be if she goes to the dark side, and she would have been a problem, I think.
Oh, she would have. And I'm sorry, I'm about to people say this. They say it's mansplain, about to womansplain for a second.
Cool, go.
If Ahsoka would have gone to the dark side, if you thought men were dangerous, as Sith, imagine a female. And yes, Asajj Ventress is definitely like, she's a very strong dark side character, and we definitely see dark side villains like that are females throughout the course of Star Wars, from all the way from the Old Republic, High Republic, throughout time. But with Ahsoka, with the training she had from Anakin, if she went to the dark side, if you thought Vader was menacing, she would have been worse.
No, it would have
been
game
ruthless. Over. Game over. Like the Republic, the rebels would not. The rebellion would have been
it wouldn't have happened.
Assassinated.
Yeah.
Because women, I love women. I love women, but something about specifically Ahsoka, she holds a power and emotion that is very, very, very like Anakin. Her impulsivity, which is a little bit more different than Anakin's, because Anakin is impulsive, like 100%, but Ahsoka's even worse than he is. It would have been game over, man.
Right?
Game fucking over.
Can you imagine her turning up at that temple? Dual red lightsabers. Forget about it.
To be honest, I'm not gonna lie. I think Palpatine, if you really wanted to get the strong one, it's obviously gonna change the whole like thing on Star Wars. Like, you can't really change. Like, you can't really think but imagine if Palpatine chose Ahsoka.
Right.
Everything would have been different.
Everything would have been different. But like with her, I feel like her anger towards the Jedi would have been more justified than Anakin's anger towards the Jedi, because Anakin's just annoyed that he's not on the council, right? Fine. And he's pissed at Windu because Windu is just a constant dick to him, which I think is fair. Windu, he never has Anakin's back ever. But Ahsoka, the fact that with everything she did and with her entire heart put into the Jedi Order, she never had elements of moving off of that path. She was there. She was as bold as anything. She was as into the Jedi Order as Kenobi was. She was fully on board with them. And for them to treat her like they did by just being like, well, you obviously murdered them. It's just like, what? I'm the most Jedi out of all of you, and you're saying this about me after everything I've done to you. Like, you would have. I could, if she'd have come back bad, I would have been like, you're 100% justified in that, because they have not treated you like the person that you are.
No, it's they never did. And what's crazy to me is it really was off zero evidence.
Yes.
And what's crazy to me is no matter what, Anakin still believed in her, which
I think is the only thing that kept her on the right path.
Oh, 100%.
Had he turned against her, she would have been like, it's game over for all these.
Yeah. Because she even teamed up with Asajj during that. And that was saying something.
Yeah, that was cool.
They hated each other.
Them two together,
and they both wield double sabers too, which is the coolest part.
Yes,
but yeah, I mean, she was just betrayed by her family and told that she did something horrible that would have put her away for life. And it's just kind of like, when I saw that happen, it made me lose faith in the Jedi Council. It made me lose faith in Jedi. Because I was just like, no. Like, you're going to believe her? You're going to believe Barriss Offee? Are you serious?
Yeah.
A Padawan? An apprentice?
Who's not done anything.
I just I remember when I was watching the arc when she was kidnapped and then she was put in that jungle where they were basically hunting the Padawans.
Yep.
you're gonna just ignore and not believe the girl that could have died straight up. But with her training that she learned from the Jedi, not only saved herself, but saved 3 other people along with it. Like, you're going to believe the one that did not do shit when the mountain was blown and they were sucked underneath.
Yeah.
When they were on Geonosis, and Bear's just like, I don't know what to do. And Ahsoka's like, oh, I was taught to do this. Oh, a communicator device. Great. Like,
you're not going to believe the one that you trusted enough to send to Ilum with a bunch of Padawans to get their crystals. You're not trusting that person. You're trusting the scrote over there. No, that was a wrong choice. That was a wrong choice, wasn't it?
I mean, I have a feeling they regretted it. I feel like, you know, as much as they want to say how perfect they are, that they don't have any regrets when they do something or they make choices. I 100% believe that Yoda felt regret after she was proven, like, found innocent. Mace,
probably not. He was a
probably
dick.
not. Mainly because Mace just, you know what's crazy to me? I get why he was on the Jedi Council, and I get why he is a Jedi, but I don't believe he is if anything, I believe he's a gray Jedi because the guy's so selfish.
Oh, for sure. He's very much in the Qui-Gon camp in my eyes.
Straight up. Just only, he's still just strong enough to just make it onto the council and will do what the council says, not like Qui-Gon. But like he wouldn't have regretted it. Obi-Wan, I believe, 100% regretted what happened. I think it was just.
And had they not done that, and Ahsoka not left, Anakin wouldn't have fallen.
People 100% believe that if she would have stayed in the Jedi Order, Anakin would never have fallen to the dark side.
No.
But I also now know why they now had to make her leave, because he needed to fall to the dark side.
Yeah, exactly. But that just goes to show the character and the character and the way it's written and how Dave Filoni had that character planned out from the beginning of who she is and where she's going. Like, it's crazy that a character that's only just become live action is such an integral part to the entire Skywalker saga that people still barely know. That is madness to me. Absolute madness. But let's talk about lightsabers quick. Like, not lightsabers, but like, what are your favorite versions of Ahsoka's sabers?
So my favorite, you should feel like I'm gonna say it to you and you're gonna be like, I already knew this answer, mainly because
I know this answer. I just want everybody else to know this answer.
So my favorite version of Ahsoka sabers are season 7's Clone Wars sabers, when Anakin, because obviously when she leaves the Jedi Temple, she leaves her sabers in the temple. Like, she doesn't take them with her. She literally walks away with actually nothing on her back. Power woman right there.
Right.
Like, I don't need anything, not even a wallet.
Yeah, I'm just walking.
Not even my ID. I don't need anything. So when Anakin gives her her refurbished sabers, and he says, like, I took care of these for you, like, they're newly done, like, you're gonna really, really like them, and she ignites them for the first time. In that split second, I was just like, maybe she could save him from the dark side. Like, right then and there. And it's kind of why I own them. Like, then again, I also own them because I made a drunkenly purchase in Halloween of 2020.
Hey, we've all done that.
Mainly because Ashley had announced on her Instagram that they were releasing her legacy sabers, and Ashley had signed like 100 of them. And I was just like, that being said, I walked into the park and I'm like, yo, are this on these sabers? And I'm like, yeah, right over there. I'm like, great. Took it, paid $250 and left. I
don't blame you. To be fair, if I was there, I would have done the same thing.
But I also like the look of them. Like, okay, I'm just gonna move my camera for a second because they're on my wall. So right there,
Mhm.
right, there we go. I have them mounted,
Nice.
and they just look so sleek and perfectly sized. It also, the reason why I also like them too is because it was during a time where Ahsoka was a bit shorter.
Yes.
So they fit my height very well. Ahsoka's sabers, when she heads Rebels, she's much taller because she's an adult, and so she's way out of my height range. So yeah.
What I appreciate about the Clone Wars sabers are, I love seeing apprentices sabers, because as we know, they take a lot of influence from their master. Like, I don't know what happened with Kenobi, because his first one has elements of Qui-Gon's in it. But then Anakin just goes off piste and does his own thing. But Ahsoka's has elements of both Anakin's and Kenobi's in there. Like the top with the bunny ears is very Anakin, but the pommel is very Kenobi. But I do love how sleek they are. Personally, I prefer them when they're green and that sort of slightly off yellowy green. So I told someone the other day, I was like, I asked them, I was like, what color are Ahsoka's original lightsabers? They're like, they're green. I'm like, they're not both green. I'm like, yeah, they're both green. I'm like, they're not both green. One of them is green. One of them is greeny yellow. The Shoto is greeny yellow. And they're like, why would they be different? Why would they be different colors? I'm like, well, because when she made her first one, she was in a certain place of her Jedi training. When she made her second one, a couple of years later, she's in a different place and a different Jedi mentality. So her sabers, when you're being forced into the crystal, it kind of takes on whatever's going on. So they're going to be ever such a slightly different shade. And I really like that. It shows the evolution of a character. And the fact that obviously she then goes on to have the white ones, which is my personal favorite, and how they became white is possibly the most badass story in the whole of Star Wars. So for those of you that don't know how Ahsoka gets white lightsabers and how you get a white lightsaber, it's pretty dope. So all Sith have red lightsabers. We know this, it's a given. It's very boring. But the reason they have them is the kyber crystals inside of every lightsaber is technically a sentient being. Would you say sentient being? They're not a living creature.
But there's an energy to kyber crystals that is not like a human being. It lives, yes. It just lives very differently than what you would think lives in the Force. Yes. Like the Force surrounds us and binds us and is inside every single living creature, but what's inside of a kyber crystal is very different than the living Force. Yes. Or if I should say, it is a pure example of what the living Force is. It's just not, it's not tangible.
There you go. That's the perfect explanation there. So what Sith do to build their first Sith lightsaber, they have to, right, this always confused me because I'm like, at one point there's no Jedi around, so how do you get your lightsabers? They have to defeat a Jedi. They have to take their lightsaber. They have to take that kyber crystal that's in there, and the best way I can describe it is imbue it with such hate, such dark side energy that the crystal actually bleeds. And that's how it becomes red, which is dark and dope, and I love it. Depending on whether or not it's still canon, is the book still canon?
No.
So the Ahsoka
book
is so good, so very, very good, and still fits. There's only like a couple of bits that wouldn't make canon.
Yeah, I mean, I have the book. Yeah, I have the book.
I love the book. The book is so good, but it describes how she builds her new lightsabers from junk, from parts. But she's being tracked down because it's Order 66, and she defeats two. They're both Inquisitors, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So what she does is she defeats the two Inquisitors because she needs crystals for her new lightsabers. and she takes the red crystals and uses the Force to purify the crystal. So
yeah,
the crystal,
she purifies them basically.
yeah. So they then become clear, and she puts them in her newly made hilt. So when she turns them on, they become the white blades, which is why you don't see white blades very, very often, because it's very difficult to do. And that just goes to show you how cool she is and how much of a badass she is,
And
because
how
she's able
powerful
to
she
do it.
is. Because that's
How powerful she is. That's
because
insane.
because there's a knowledge of the Force that not everyone gets to learn. It's it's a big part of why Yoda kept pushing Obi-Wan to go continue his training with him to learn more of the extended Force, so he can speak to his old master again, Qui-Gon. And not many Jedi are taught it. I mean, yes, they're all in the Jedi holocrons, but once the Empire took over, you really couldn't find this information. But Ahsoka made it her mission basically to expand her abilities, so it can be useful for her, and then one day hopefully teach this as well. So the fact that she's able to purify a kyber crystal, which if it took all of the Sith's energy to bleed it, to make it bleed, imagine how much it takes to cleanse it.
To do
Twice.
Like, I mean, that's next level.
That is next level completely.
That's next level. And I think, that's the beauty of this character, is the fact that there's so many untapped stories around that. Like, I would love to see that whole book in live action form. I think you can do that movie.
Like I said, it's my dream to one day be in the Star Wars universe, producing it in some way. And if Ahsoka kicks off live action the way that I'm hoping it's going to be, which is very rare because I'm very big into, like, I don't give myself expectations for Star Wars shows nowadays, but I'm really excited for Ahsoka, so I'm already giving myself high expectations for it. If it shoots off the way I hope it will, there's more room for Ahsoka for movies to come.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's like a flashback or something, but even if they try doing like one of those standalone movies, kind of like Rogue One, dude, it's going to be insane. Like,
because we know how much they love crowbarring in stories in between times. You've got an element there between the end of Clone Wars Season 7 and the beginning, well, not the beginning, sort of the middle of Rebels, where she finally turns up, where she doesn't have to connect to the main story really at all. Maybe Bail Organa, and we know that Jimmy Smits is down for that because he'll turn up to anything to do with Star Wars.
At this point, yeah. And it's, what's crazy to me is seeing him as Bail always makes me happy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
It always makes me happy because it's just kind of like he's that part of the prequels that, although he didn't have such a big part in it, he was still important enough that when you see him, you get like nostalgic. Yeah. Like, I remember seeing him for the first time in Rogue One and I cried. Granted, I cried many times during that movie,
for sure.
Specifically within the last 20 minutes of it. But seeing him, like, it's like that one part of the Republic that's still intact because he was such a close friend to Padme. He's like the closest thing to Padme than we have, even considering her kids. She's the closest thing to Padme we have. He is the closest thing to Padme. So it's kind of like, seeing him makes me so happy. And so knowing that they are teaming up together to create this Fulcrum, this secret intelligence in the rebellion, that no one knows who this person is. No one knows Fulcrum. Like, no one knows who this is. But Bail knew enough that if he couldn't get Obi-Wan to join the rebellion, he knew he can get one person.
Yeah.
And that was Ahsoka. And
that's what's so good about that book as well, is how it just weaves everything together and puts it all together. Nice little bow. And I love that book. It's one of my favorite Star Wars books.
I know, and it kind of breaks my heart a little bit, because the whole thing with what's canon and what's not at this point, I get it. If you make everything canon, it becomes very chaotic. So like, be selective with what you make canon. But I still found no reason why the Ahsoka books were taken out of canon.
There's not enough in there that would affect anything else.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
it's just her story of doing her thing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But it's kind of like why I was really confused, and I'm just like, why take the book out of canon when it fits her so much and gives her? I'm like, maybe I'm trying to think of like, maybe they were trying to like give her, maybe we're gonna get some like flashback of her in the Clone Wars when in the new Ahsoka. Like, I don't know what it is, but to me there was no reason why to take the book out of canon. The canon universe of Star Wars. No
maybe that's it. Maybe we get some flashbacks of things that she's doing and it interferes with the book. But I don't know why you wouldn't take. I don't know why that if you're doing a flashback, why you just wouldn't take elements of the book. It's already written. Written, and it's written well.
It was.
Also, I've read that book like twice. I've also listened to it on an audiobook.
Do you who's voicing the audiobook?
Who do you think?
Shut the fuck up. Are you serious?
Yeah, no, serious.
Oh, now I have to listen to the audiobook.
Right, yeah, that's why I had to listen to it.
Because you're literally listening to it in Ahsoka's voice.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, it has to be canon because it's canon. For me, it will always be canon. I don't care. I don't give a shit what you say. It's canon.
I love that. Hold on. Okay, Ahsoka book, audiobook. Oh, come on. Yes. Found it on Audible.
Nice. Yeah, I think I got it on Audible as well.
Oh, I'm excited. Narrated by Ashley.
Right.
And you know what? A lot of times, especially in the Star Wars universe, the actor makes the character. When I tell you Ashley is Ahsoka, I am not joking.
See, I've never met her.
Hopefully, she will be at Star Wars Celebration next year. She always attends Star Wars Celebration.
Well, then I will have to meet her. It's like, it's one of those things.
Like, I know she will always. Well, number one, the main reason why I have a big feeling she will be there is because there's a big. I have a big feeling her universe is going to be there. So,
I mean, if they use that as an opportunity to break into the UK market properly.
Well, I feel like I think post-COVID, this is an amazing opportunity for her to. I mean, she's already kind of been going out of the country. Technically, she has been. I mean, not this past Fan Expo in Canada, but she's gone to conventions in Canada before. So she's left the country technically, and she's gone on cruises with Disney Cruise Line. So yeah, like it's I really think she'll be at Star Wars Celebration next year.
I hope so.
With the rest of them, I'm not entirely, because that's like a stretch going that far out. But like I'm talking about like Matt Lanter and James Arnold Taylor. I am really curious to see who is going to be doing meet and greets at Celebration next year, knowing that it's in London and it's still the time of COVID, technically.
Is it though? Not here. It ain't. We don't mention.
No,
it.
I mean here. I mean, what I'm talking about, like in the States, like a lot of them, like for example, if you want to, like Warwick Davis is still working technically, but he lives out in the UK, doesn't he?
Yes.
Okay, so he would definitely be there. So does. I'm trying to think, like actors that.
McGregor will be there.
Well, yeah, McGregor. Well, McGregor's from there for UK. Like McGregor going to Celebration is to me is a given. If it's like Hayden going, no, I believe Hayden's going to go. But if it's somebody like Billy D. Williams, I don't know if Billy D is going to make it out to London to do Celebration just because of like.
Yeah.
Like it's like there's certain people that I don't know that will go just because either they're still working and it's very like because of their rule. You know what? I believe most people will go, and the only reason why I'm saying this is because like movie sets nowadays, like if you're working, like they're gonna still test you in some way,
Yeah.
wherever you're at. So we'll see.
I do hope she comes, because it would be nice to finally meet her. She's like one of those Star Wars people that you're like, right, I have to meet her. Finally, Mark Hamill, that would be nice. And for me, Sam Witwer as well.
Oh, Sam would for sure go. I think Sam, the main reason why I'll know Sam will go is just because he'll always go to Celebration. Ever since he's been invited, he'll always go.
Because I love him. I think he's the best.
But I will say this, if you haven't seen this already, I'm pretty sure you have, but if you haven't, at this past year's Celebration, obviously, like, everyone, I think Ashley was interviewing at a panel or something, and someone had asked her, or the topic came up, how she felt about Rosario taking on the role of Ahsoka, and if she was upset that it wasn't her chosen. And she goes, no, I'm not upset at all. Like, Ahsoka is older now, so there's, like, there needs to be a live action Ahsoka. But no matter what, Ahsoka, I always want Ahsoka to be a part of my life. I don't remember what she exactly said, but I remember she, like, it was, like, so emotional that it made me cry. Let's find this bitch. I'm telling you, like, it was so emotional to see her say this.
I want you all to know that when you share a story with me, when you come up to my table over there, or we talk on social media, it's always a safe space. And I hear you and I see you. And when you share your stories with me of how Ahsoka has changed your life, or in many cases, how she saved your life, that sticks with me. And I think about it and I remember everyone's stories. And so to be here today, 15 years later, or almost 15 years later, and to see all of the Ahsoka love, and now Ahsoka is getting her own series, and to hear all of her stories, it's just surreal. And it's something I don't take lightly. I might not be your live action Ahsoka, but I want to be your real life version of Ahsoka Tano.
I mean, what more can you say?
She's perfect. Like, it's...
Yeah.
Like, you see that and you get really excited to know that that character has changed so much of your life, because Ahsoka changed so much of my life. And when Ashley says she remembers, she has a memory that's unlike any other person I've ever met in my life. She will remember you from meeting you. I remember I did this GalaxyCon thing last year, and I finally found the video of me and her, because they recorded our thing, and she looks at me, she goes, I remember you. Like, I remember meeting you. Like, didn't I meet you at Celebration at Star Wars Weekends? And I said, yeah, because I was dressed like a Ahsoka. She goes, yes, you were. And you had an Ewok backpack. And I was just like,
wow.
That was 2014. I did this last year in 2021. And, like, she remembers so much and is such a, like, encouraging person, which is why I know that no matter what, we're going to, like she says, even though she's not the live action Ahsoka, I know her spirit will still be in Rosario when Rosario plays Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, I was so okay with Rosario, because she's going to have the same spirit as Ashley did. And Ahsoka's the best. She, to me, my first and forever character, my favorite character of all time, will always be Ahsoka, no matter what. And my second will be Kylo Ren.
I think those are good choices.
That's mainly for, like, emotional damaging problems. But Ahsoka, Ahsoka has touched Star Wars in a way that there's no other character like her. Like, Princess Leia is one thing. Princess Leia is a beacon of light in Star Wars. She is our princess. She's our general. Always will be. And her strength transcends so many other things in Star Wars. And then you have, of course, like a character like Rey. Rey is amazing. Rey's strength and resilience is insane. Her power alone is off the charts, mainly because she's a Palpatine, but aside from all that, which I don't know pisses people off, but she's a Skywalker now.
It's canon.
It's canon. But then you have like a woman like and then you have Padme. And Padme is just like, she's the woman that always fights for what's right, no matter what, no matter if she's dealing with every single bulldog in the room, she will go after every single one of them to make sure things are right. And that's amazing. But something about Ahsoka is like a blend of all that.
Yeah.
A human blend. And although Rey and Ahsoka never really meet, and I feel like Leia and Ahsoka do meet in a different way. I think if anything, they've met through a hologram.
Yeah.
I don't think they've met actually in person. At least it's not canon to my knowledge that they've met in person. But Ahsoka's a blend of all. Did she meet Leia in person? Did I forget this?
I think only briefly. If in the book, Ahsoka's talking to Bail in his office, and I think she comes in, or he leaves to go and deal with her. One of the two. So they're
like they don't meet, but they're in the same vicinity, essentially.
Yeah, and that's going to have carried on as well, because like in everything that we've seen, even in the Kenobi show, like that's Bail doing his rebel thing. So Ahsoka's around there somewhere. There's a story there where Ahsoka and Leia meet for sure.
Has to be. Like it's either has to be in hologram form or they have to meet in person. But if anything, I don't know. I don't think Leia will actually know the true identity of Ahsoka.
No.
For safety of her, and the safety of the rebellion, because the whole point is Leia's not supposed to know about the rebellion.
Yeah.
Plot twist, she does. If anybody hasn't known the preface of the story, plot twist, she does know about the rebellion. But Ahsoka is essentially, I would like to say, a blend of all three of the strongest women in Star Wars. Yeah. And her character's going to live on. Like, it's not one of those characters that it's like brought in and then kind of forgotten about. Kind of like, I'm going to throw shade to Solo a bit. Kind of like Kira.
Who?
Exactly. Moving on.
That's a shame. That's a shame because she technically has a lot of power in that universe.
Oh my god, I love Emilia Clarke so much. So hyped to see her in Star Wars, but no one has ever brought up Kira again. No. So,
not at all. Jeez. I have to, obviously I agree with you. Ahsoka is a unique character that has managed to touch all parts of Star Wars, no matter what. Like she's there. She's in the background, but she's there, and is quite a linchpin in everything. And the shows that we've had have only done good things, and have only solidified her as the character that we know. Like, we all kind of knew she was going to be in The Mandalorian, and we also kind of knew that it was going to be played by Rosario Dawson. That was the worst kept secret ever.
Yeah.
And I was concerned because I was just like, this is a character that I know as Ashley, and I know how Ashley plays her, and that's the character. But as much as Rosario did bring her own thing to Ahsoka, there's seeds there. There's the element of who Ahsoka is as a character will always be there. And I think we're going to be lucky enough to see that expanded even more in the new Ahsoka show.
And I 100% agree with you, especially with, and this is a character that Dave has so much, he feels territorial over.
Yeah.
I've never seen a director at least in my lifetime, have such a claim to a character, like Dave has with Ahsoka. Like Dave, obviously, like every single episode that Ahsoka came in was obviously directed by Dave Filoni. Like the second you see Dave in the lineup as one of the directors, you know Ahsoka's going to be showing up.
Yep.
Because that's just at this point it's staple in the Star Wars universe. So knowing that this is going to be Dave's show, live action with Ahsoka, you know that he wouldn't be putting out greatness if he didn't think it was great.
For sure.
If any, like, he is literally second to George Lucas of knowing everything in Star Wars. He loves and he created Ahsoka and loves her to a point that, like, he doesn't want.
She's like his child.
Basically. And sometimes, like, you want your children to grow up and have their own things and stuff like that. But something about Ahsoka will always, like, pull at his heartstrings.
Yeah.
And that's why I know the Ahsoka show is going to be great. Because Dave wouldn't be making it if he didn't think it would be possible. And if he didn't think he had the confidence in Rosario or his team. And I guarantee you Ashley is consulting the show in some way.
For me, I would genuinely love it to see her get some kind of cameo in it somewhere. Even if we don't necessarily see her.
You know what's crazy?
Go on.
If they do a flashback, saying if. Because when Ahsoka first came out as a character in the Disney parks, when the show came out, they dressed up Ashley like Ahsoka. And she looked exactly. At that point, I'm like, Ashley, just do meet and greets as Ahsoka at this point. Like, just be the character performer that does the meet and greets. Because then it would literally be her. Obviously, Disney didn't do that. But imagine if they did flashbacks and it was Ashley. Because Ashley is shorter than Rosario.
Yeah.
And Ashley can portray the younger version of Ahsoka. Would they do it? I'm not sure.
I don't know. But if they do, I will be in pieces.
You would be in pieces. I'd be in pieces. I would not emotionally recover.
No.
And you know what? I think that would be the episode that breaks the internet for, like, Star Wars, like for Disney Plus. Like right now, HBO Max is breaking every single Sunday because everyone's watching House of the Dragon. The episode that, if that ever happens,
done.
Website crashed.
Yeah. The internet today crashed because there was a flashback in Star Wars. I could see that happening, to be fair. I could see that happening. Well, I think we've probably spoken more about Ahsoka now than anybody has. And I think that's only a good thing. But also, I'm going to wrap this up because I'm not going to take up all of your time talking about the Queen Ahsoka. What's the one thing? Obviously, we've just spoken about the possibility of that in a flashback. But what's the one thing you'd like to see? I know you don't do predictions or anything else, but what's the one thing you'd like to see in the Ahsoka show?
Well, we know Hayden's going to be in the show.
Yes. So
the one thing that with that being said, I'd love to see is obviously the flashback of her of Ahsoka and Anakin. But what I really want to see, and I don't know if it'll happen, but it's something that I'd like to see in person, I'd like to see on screen, is because I don't think Ahsoka forgave herself for a while of Anakin going to the dark side. So I would love for her, I don't know whether it's going to be in the show. I don't know if it's going to be like in somebody else's show or in somebody else's like entire universe. But I would like to see Ahsoka kind of forgive herself for what has happened because she can't change anything and she blames herself so much for it. So I kind of want to see her forgive herself and make peace with what happened, because I think that's been her biggest turmoil. Yeah. One of her biggest turmoil. That and the fact that, she's on the hunt for Thrawn. But her biggest turmoil is that she couldn't save her master, and like no matter like even after their battle, and you could say you tried fixing it, I think she still struggled so much. She still struggles a lot with the fact that she couldn't save Anakin. So I kind of want him. I kind of want her to like. We see it in the show where she finds peace and kind of forgives herself. Don't know if that'll happen, but that'd be a nice prediction.
That's a good one. Mine, actually, to be fair, is very, very similar. I would love to see a moment between Ahsoka and Force Ghost Anakin having a moment. Just them finally having a moment of him, obviously dead as a can of spam, but Anakin anyway, just kind of letting her know that he was okay in the end, and that like his son was able to bring him back. I would love that, and again, I think I would be in floods of tears at that point.
You know, you and I are going to be in floods of tears.
Oh, it's going to be an absolute mess, isn't it?
It's going to be so. We're going to be crying so much.
I think when it comes to that show, I think that you and I need to host some kind of, maybe once it's all ended, host a live or something where we just discuss the show. But it's got to be me and you. No one else will get it as much. Do you know what I mean? Like everybody else will enjoy it, but we'll be on a different level.
I mean, listen, if you want to even consider doing an after show, just the two of us, the Ahsoka, a Fulcrum after show.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Straight up.
Yeah. Okay.
Hell, we might be crying on camera while I'm filming the episode.
We will. Guaranteed.
I'm gonna be like, I don't know if I can do like the live watching of it.
No.
I feel like
I like to have my time
of that.
I like, yeah.
But an after show I'd be down for. Let's
do it. That's on. You and me, live after show for Ahsoka. Just the two of us. It's going to be a mess, and I'm already looking forward to it.
We're always going to be a mess.
Right. But thank you for coming on to Jim's Cantina.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it, you know.
Oh, no, of course. Like, you've always been like one of the first guests I wanted on, and then like other people. We've been trying to plan this for a while. It's just like
life has happened.
Life, and both of us are just like, you know what? The beauty of talking to you is, you know, some people where you're like, I'm not on my best, but you just turn around to them and say, oh, I've got something on today. I can't quite do this. I know that with you, I can be like, listen, dude, I'm not mentally there.
You can always be like with me,
and you'll be like, it's totally cool. I totally and utterly get it, and I'd like to thank you for that.
Oh, don't make me emotional, Jim.
He's just a really good friend, and I know that you and I are on a level with each other where we can be 100% like there for each other, and I really appreciate that, because there's not many people that you can be, and you're one of them.
God. Well, you're very, very welcome, and Jesus, you got me in tears now. But I like, you know, you're one of those friends that I went through so much this past year, and you were always willing to be a friend to me and listen to my complaints or my hardships with my breakup. And yeah, you just get me. And it's crazy that, you know, we just happened to meet on this one live stream last year, and now we're here over a year later. And I just, you know, I can confide in you in so many things, and I get to meet you next month, which is so exciting. And then obviously spend time with you at Celebration, and I cannot thank you enough for coming into my life. So
you never need to thank me, man. I think you and I were brought to each other's lives to just enrich them, honestly.
Yeah.
And I'm super thankful to the universe for that. Because I get to chat with one of the best people on the planet. So that's always awesome to me.
I appreciate it. You have no idea. I appreciate it.
So thank you again for coming on. Everybody needs to follow that at the Real Jedi Princess. Go and
Yes,
subscribe to
please.
her YouTube because her podcast is dope as all hell.
Long as hell, but dope as hell.
I
I'm getting
listen,
better
when
at it.
it's that good, it doesn't matter how long it is. Trust me, your last episode was incredible because I was on it. I mean,
Yes.
no, but like, it's what I enjoy about it is how you're approaching it from a different way. It's not always just about Star Wars X. You're doing anime, you're doing cosplay, you're bringing people to the forefront that not necessarily everybody knows about, and I really appreciate that, and I really like how you're doing it as well. And it's an easy listen, it's an easy watch. You're very engaging, and you always, I think, get the best out of your guests as well because of that. And so it's a fantastic thing. So everybody needs to head over, subscribe to Nat's channel, because it's a good time. It's a good time every time.
You.
And I've been lucky enough to be on a podcast twice. Who else can say that, right?
That is very true. He's 2 for 2 at this point.
2 for 2. Come on. But thank you so much for coming on.
No, you're fine.
And we'll be back on Jim's Cantina, I'm sure, when we've got something else that we want to talk about. But we're definitely going to do lives for the Ahsoka after party. You heard it here. It was born here. It's going to happen. So thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Do the whole subscribe, like, comment, whatever. Tell us your favorite Ahsoka moments in the comments below, because everybody's got them.
Absolutely.
Mine is the I am no Jedi. That's the best bit. Always. But until next time, thank you again, Nat. And don't forget, we are one with the Force, and the Force is with us.